I really wanted to talk to you about, Mono to run ASP.NET applications on Linux and servers and cheap servers, but they said, no, that's not interesting. You should talk about Silverlight. So I'm going to be talking about that. And if you guys give me an excuse, I'll show you something else. But anyways, that is our beautiful logo for Moonlight. I think it's the best thing that we've done in the project so far. It's the what? And it was, it was actually contributed by the community. The community came and said, well, this is a mashup, so somebody came up with that logo. Anyways, so I want to tell you how we got here in the first place, because the summary is that basically Moonlight is an open source implementation from scratch of Silverlight for Linux, and Microsoft is helping us make that happen. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of perspective why we got here and what happened in the process. So a few years ago, I started a project called the GNOME Desktop, which is the desktop system that I'm using on this machine. So this is what it looks like, right? And, we worked on a lot of pieces on the desktop. And the idea was basically we wanted to make Linux competitive, and we wanted to make Linux useful on the desktop, not on the server alone. The server is, to me, the most boring thing. It's just as boring as virtualization. It's just as boring as, clouds and, all that stuff, which is why I kind of passed out during the keynote yesterday. But, I mean, what matters to me is my cell phone, my laptop computer, and, my TV, right? So the server stuff might be interesting, but it's not my focus. So anyways, I started that project in 1997, and then in 1999, a friend of mine, my very good friend, Nat Friedman, and myself, decided to start up a company to productize the Linux desktop and make it happen. And the company was called Zemian. And the idea is that we would fill in the gaps that we couldn't really fill as a community alone. So the idea is that we would build applications that were missing. We built one of those, which is our email client and calendar client. We contributed where we had to contribute, so libraries that were missing stuff, or things that needed some work. So we did a lot of work in that area. We started a foundation called the GNOME Foundation with other people. And but that was basically the idea behind Zemian. And the company was acquired in 2003 by Novell. And we went from being an incredibly cool startup to an incredibly boring brand. And then now people are like, don't you guys do networks? Like, no. It's a shame. Anyways, it's a shame. So anyways, as we were building this thing towards 2001, we realized that it was kind of painful to build some of these applications. We were building applications with C and C++, and it was starting to be very annoying to build those. And we kind of had a multi-language story, but it wasn't great. It was a multi-language story based on manually binding stuff, similar to what you guys do with Swig. At that point, Microsoft came up with the .NET framework, and we basically liked that very much. The story was very compelling to us, and we saw it as a way of getting better developer tools for Linux, and as a way of writing better software faster for Linux. So we've been building a lot of our desktop stuff on Linux using Mono ever since. As I said, we started the project in 2001, and although our first release was in 2003 or 2004, we've been writing stuff with previews of Mono for many years. So originally, our focus was only the Linux desktop, and we focused really on Linux native APIs. So we built a lot of stuff in there with Linux, like, for example, my note-taking application that I have here. It's behind this window. So like this note-taking application, a bunch of book recommendations that I got. So it's kind of a wiki built into your desktop. But the point is that we built a lot of things for the desktop using Mono over the years. And as time went by, what happened is that a lot of people actually started using Mono not only for the desktop, but they started using it also for server applications. So we started getting contributions from the community to implement some things that we really didn't care much about at the time. As again, we were a very small startup, and there was so much we could do. So we got support for ASP.NET and ADO.NET and web services and so on. And so eventually, the story of Mono has kind of evolved into becoming not only a tool for us Linux people to write software faster, but also a tool for us Linux people to be able to run existing code that was built for Windows, right? So if you go to Codeplex, you can download a bunch of libraries that you can consume immediately on Linux, or all kinds of open source software that you can go and get and fetch. Or for example, recently, let me show you. I mean, I'm not supposed to show you this. I'm really not supposed, and I hope that Brian is not watching. I'm really not supposed. Brian is not here, right? So, for example, I don't know if you guys know about Taligent, which is a company that builds community server. They just released this software called Graffiti, and Graffiti now not only supports Windows, but it also supports Linux. So you can actually run your ASP.NET applications, and you can host them on cheapo Linux hosting companies that will do your hosting for 30 cents a month, or $5 a month, something like that. But you get the idea, right? So anyways, this is running on my local box right now. So, and kind of the idea is, the other thing that kind of emerged over the years is basically that when people were forced to support, multiple platforms, they had a couple of choices. If they were .NET developers, they had two choices if they wanted to move to Linux. One of them was to rewrite their code in Java, and we know of many companies that did that, or rewrite in C++ or some other technology, which was kind of annoying. So in fact, what happens with Mono is that since we're a community project, although Novell puts most of the funding, we get contributions from a bunch of companies that have specific goals. So certain companies say, like an example is a company called ANSYS. They needed COM support. We don't care about COM. We never use COM. We don't even know how to use COM. But these guys really, really needed COM for their application. And they had two choices. Rewrite everything in C++ and just use Qt, or continue using .NET and patch Mono to get the new features. So they went and implemented the support that they needed for COM. And they're also the guys that added the Win64 support for Mono. I mean, I really don't care about Mono on Windows, but these people run their actual software these days runs on Mono on Windows as opposed to the .NET Framework. I know it sounds odd, but that's how it is. So anyways, a lot of people have been contributing to Mono, not because they care much about open source and, free spirit and, all that stuff about sharing and, all that commie stuff, but because there is a direct benefit for them. So they say, listen, I have to support Linux, or I have to support Solaris, or I want to port my application to Mac OS X, so they went and did that. So that's kind of where we're coming from. So Mono project, that's where I was coming from. That's my hometown. Oh, wait. So anyways, so Microsoft came up with, so this is a summary of Silverlight in 3 bullet points, is a quick recap of history. We're watching a WPF, and we're interested in WPF, but WPF is this huge library, right? And for a team of the size of Mono, we were excited about WPF, but, it's something really beyond our capabilities in terms of putting it together. So Microsoft announced that at some PDC, I forget which one, that they would do WPF/E. And there were very few details. All they said is, we're going to get WPF everywhere. Very few details. We talked to the guys. It's like, so how's that? Is that native? Is that, what are you guys doing? And they say, oh, it's all native. You won't use .NET. It's like, oh, that sounds odd. So we figured, who cares about that? Then at MIX06, they had that stuff. They finally showed it, and they finally had a demo. And it's like, well, who cares? It's a control that can paint, a clock, and it has alpha transparency. It's like, big deal. And it's important for the Linux desktop because we want the Linux desktop to be in parity with every other system, right? I mean, over the years, one of the pain points for Linux on the desktop has been that the apps don't run, right? So we didn't want Linux to become a second-class citizen. And although it's important to support WPF, at the time we figured, well, we, the Mono team, don't really have any say in this thing. It just happens to be something else. But last year, when Microsoft announced Silverlight 1.1, I was incredibly excited because, it was this canvas that had WPF run in the browser, but also had a .NET story, right? It has the .NET virtual machine. You could build it. You could build stuff in C#. You could build stuff with, with Iron Python and Iron Ruby and the DLR. And I just love the story. And so we figured. So I figured, well, that's really interesting. And what happened next is, I was telling everybody we're going to build Moonlight. We're really going to build Silverlight. And a friend of mine, a journalist, comes to me and says, so are you guys going to do Silverlight? Like, of course we are. right? And so he put that on a news article, and then all the people that had Microsoft on the net assumed that this was a gigantic plot between Microsoft and Novell to destroy the web, and that this had been planned for months. And it's like, I was drunk. I told the dude, yeah, of course I'm going to do it. But anyway, so there was no conspiracy here. That's my point. And then Mark Jalabert, he runs Microsoft France, or some part of Microsoft France. He came to me and said, why don't you come to Paris and you show us Mono? Yeah, I'll go. Yes, I'll go. And then he said a couple of weeks later, like, well, if you come, you can be on the keynote. And, for someone that has never had any space at any Microsoft conference, to me, that was very exciting. So I figured, yeah, I'll do whatever to be on the keynote. And he said, perfect. All you have to do is come and show us Silverlight on Linux, right? We had no lines of code. We had no code written. And he sent me that email on May 31st. So I sent an email to my guys, and I said, guys, we have 3 weeks. Can we make this happen? So my guy said, yeah, why not? So in 3 weeks, about 12 of us or 13 of us got together and implemented a prototype of Silverlight. It wasn't complete, but it ran enough to run the airlines demo and to run enough the Surface. I don't know if you saw the Surface where you had those things that you could move around. So we got enough for Paris for that to work. And then later on, we showed that to Microsoft, and as part of the existing Novell Microsoft agreement, we decided to have a collaboration together, right? So that was really good. So what happened is, I think that, in my opinion, Microsoft has been opening up as opposed to what they used to do in the past. It used to be a more closed company. I think that they're opening up in many dimensions. I won't go through all the list, but there's a couple of things that are very, very interesting to us. The first one is that the DLR, which is Dynamic Language Runtime, which is what powers Iron Python, Iron Ruby, and other languages in the future, that chunk, which would have been a lot of work for us to replicate, in an open source fashion, basically rewrite all the code into an open source fashion, they decided to open source that code, which meant we didn't have to move a finger to get all of that code running, right? Well, in fact, we did, because Mono had bugs, so we had to fix them. But so John here and his team have been producing all kinds of new versions of the DLR that find more bugs in Mono, so we've been fixing them. But that was incredibly good. I mean, it's a lot of code, and we can just reuse it. They've been opening up other things. I particularly care about OpenOffice XML because many years ago I wrote a spreadsheet, which today is being maintained by someone else, but I still feel passionate about spreadsheets. I know it's the most boring subject for most of you, but I really love spreadsheets. So when the OpenOffice XML specification came out, I was a supporter of it, and it's turned out to be a big political debate. And then I have a theory, and I have no way of prove it, and I have no data to back it up, as I was telling my friends. But I think that Scott Guthrie has a lot to do with the opening up, at least of the developer group at Microsoft. And this is just a hunch. I have, as I said, no data to back it up. But my theory is that he was a web guy, right? He did IIS, and then he did ASP.NET. And he understands the value of open systems and open development and mixing PHP with other languages and mixing a lot of things. So I think that, that's my impression. I think that he's pushing from the inside to change Microsoft in a positive direction. Bob Muglia, of course, is the guy that we have been talking to at Novell, and he's the person that has helped move a lot of this interoperability and the announcements that they made a couple of weeks about interoperation between Windows and Linux, which is very good news. And of course, Sam Ranji, that runs the open source group at Microsoft. So there's a lot of things to give Microsoft credit for, and we're very happy about that. So I'll shut up very soon, and I'll show you some demos because you guys are getting bored. So we did an agreement in September between Novell and Microsoft, and these are roughly the terms of the agreement. Microsoft would assist us in 3 ways, basically. They would assist us by giving us, first, a set of test suites. So our new implementation could be validated against Microsoft implementation and make sure that we would render and we would do the same things that the Silverlight implementation does. So the same exact test suite that they use to prevent regressions in their own code is the same test suite that we use for Moonlight. They also gave us access to the specifications, and they gave us access to people inside Microsoft, so we could ask questions and we could and get our concerns addressed. regarding things that are either not clear in the spec or not clear in the test. So that's the second piece. And the third piece is the media pack. I won't go into all the details, but media, playing back video and playing back audio is a minefield. It's a patent minefield. There's a lot of people that own those patents, and they actively license those. They're very active in the process of enforcing those patents and making sure that people go and actually pay for this. So it's kind of a minefield, and we felt that even if we could produce everything that was needed for Silverlight, handling the particular piece with the codecs was going to be, with this patented technology, was going to be very difficult. So Microsoft agreed to build and redistribute the whole thing themselves. So Moonlight is going to be basically, I'll go to the diagrams in a few minutes, but basically they are going to give us everything that has to do with media. We're not going to do it ourselves. And finally, Novell agreed to those terms, and will deliver a 100% compatible version of Silverlight based on the test suites, and will support all of the major Linux distributions and platforms. Although the agreement calls for us to support the major 3 Linux distributions, our goal is to support pretty much everything under the sun. Solaris, BSD, Linux, everything that we can get. So if Silverlight is not supported in a particular platform because there's not enough market or there's not a lot of interest, we're an open source project. People can contribute, and we'll do a binary release for that platform. So we kind of want to, all the little holes that are not covered, we want to take care of those guys. So let's go into Moonlight. So today, Moonlight, this is roughly how it's structured. We have an engine. So let me explain the idea that I had when I did these beautiful drawings. The blue stuff means code that Microsoft builds, right? That's code that Microsoft creates. All the orange and yellow stuff is stuff that we do. So the idea is we don't need to implement the Microsoft DLR. We don't need to implement Iron Ruby or Iron Python. We just take those from Microsoft, right? Microsoft publishes those. We just consume them, and we redistribute those. Moonlight has a couple of components. We have the core engine that takes care of graphics and audio, graphics, audio, the canvas, heat testing, event handling, and so on. We have the mono virtual machine, which is what runs CLR bytecodes, right? So that's what actually powers Silverlight 2.0. And finally, the Silverlight library, so all the managed APIs that you use to build Silverlight applications. Now, on top of this engine that lives in a library, which is called libmoon, we actually have 2 facades. We have one facade is the web browser, so that's a plugin that you use, right? You go to a website and it activates and it shows you that facade. And the other facade is a standalone Linux control that you can use to put Moonlight in your applications, right? So if you have an application, if you have a Windows Forms application, or you have a native Linux application and you want to spice it up, just like you would spice up a web page with some Silverlight content, you can also spice up an application with some Silverlight content inside of it. So I can show you some of that. So let me just give you a couple of demos that we have. I already have a window open somewhere. Oh, here it is. Let me open this guy. Oh, no, this guy. No. Die. These are a couple of demos of what we have. This is a Halo 3 website that uses Silverlight. There are 2 versions, one with Flash, one with Silverlight. And I guess we have no audio. Oh, I put it on the microphone, sorry. It's back in? Oh, there we go. Oh, that is awesome. All right, enough. So anyways, one of the things that we're doing right now is we're trying to improve the performance. And of course, you can see a bug up there. That line is not supposed to be there. So let me explain the story of that line. It's kind of complicated. So there's this bug that we need to fix. And they fix that bug. And in the process of fixing that bug, they made some changes, and they broke some other features. So they went and fixed those features and said, guys, I want to demo that stuff. Please fix that. So they went and fixed it. And in the process of fixing that, they said, you can update. It's fine. And I updated last night. And, yesterday. And they say, it's all fine. And then I run all of the demos, and nothing works. Right? So I said, did anybody test this stuff? It's like, well, we tested this stuff. So I had to revert to the version that has that bug. So anyways, what you're watching here is a live Moonlight, the live Moonlight stuff. And to prove it to you that this is not Flash, you can right-click on this dingus. So it has a nice about box. Very nice. You can click on the credits, and you get a list of everybody. I know. Credit where credit is due. There's a couple of interesting features that we have here. Like you can see where does this come from, how many frames per second you're getting, whether it's a pure XAML file or a managed file, whether it's windowless or not. And I'll get back to that because there's a very complicated story about that on Linux. And a couple of debugging options. These are just for our internal use, like show bounding boxes so you can see where things are changing, right, or exposed regions. So this is stuff that we use to debug why stuff is slow. So you probably don't care too much about that. We're hoping to turn this more into a Firebug kind setup so you can actually go through all of these things. So here you can debug. And if I click on these things, you'll see that different pieces get highlighted. So this will help us determine where are we messing up. Again, these are very primitive debugging facilities for us to get Moonlight implemented. And finally, I think that this is very, very interesting. With this one, we actually get links to all of the content that makes up the Silverlight page. Because sometimes we need to debug this stuff, and it's kind of hard. Probably the most interesting feature is like that one. If you click Open File, it will open your JPEG files, or if it's a XAML file, let me see if I can find one. If it's a XAML file, it will open it with another command. I don't know that one is any interest. Oh, there you go. That's the XAML file that content is actually hidden after you start it for the first time. Or you can dump all of those files into a file. So if you're debugging a Silverlight site, you click that button, you get a whole dump of the thing. Anyways. There's a couple of other demos that I can show you. That's the Halo site. Let me show you Sprawl. That's a 1.0 application. This is also a 1.0 application. This is running locally, right? So I click to continue. Yeah. And, I should get this back up. These are some of the samples that come with this thing. And here it's actually, this is interesting to see, like, that's not what I wanted. Properties, and then we can do show exposed regions. Whoops. So this is what we used to debug and say, this application used to perform atrociously initially. So this is what we used to debug that. So anyways. We also support today, and I guess I need to talk about that. We also support the 1.1 application. So the API support that we have today is the JavaScript interface and also everything that Microsoft released a year ago for this stuff. So this is the website that Microsoft has for showing multiple Silverlight applications. See, we have a couple of performance problems. That's not animating as well as it should. Anyways, we're fixing that stuff, and hopefully it will be ready in a couple of months. So I'll get back to the rest in a minute. So today you can download Moonlight and you can try it out immediately. You can just go to that URL if you are a Linux user. There's an installer. I can show you what the installer looks like. We kick some ass because not even Flash is as good as us in Linux. It's kind of painful. But with us, we just have a one-click installer experience. You click on that thing, it downloads it and install it. I'm not going to do it now because if I do it, I'm going to overwrite the version that I have on my machine, and I'm going to overwrite it with the official build, which I don't want to do for demo purposes. But trust me, if you click on that thing, it will install, and you'll have a very simple experience. This is also, I'm very proud of this page because it's the first time that I write some CSS code, and I'm very proud of the little border on the left side. That was a lot of fun, and the fact that you can click on the whole thing, and anyways, very proud of my CSS hacks. Okay, so our goals right now is Moonlight 1.0, and we don't have media. Right now you saw that I was displaying media, but I'm displaying media because I compiled the source myself, and I use an open source codec implementation, right? So I think I'll talk about that next. Oh, damn it. All right, yes. I'll talk about that later. But let's take a step back. I'm going to come back to media in a second. Please forgive me for that. Some of the things that we did with Moonlight, remember that I told you we had a web facade and we also had a native facade. So one of the things that we did is we actually we decided to build desklet applications. So I can show you. These are XAML applications that run your desktop very much like Apple widgets, right? So there we have a little clock that shows the time, and and it does a wobbly thing, and it's transparent so you can see through it. So that is a very simple application. I can show you the source code to that. Let me just go to desktop, desklets, desklet. Which one did I show you? The glassy clock. So I can show you the source code for that. So that's actually C# code and XAML. So the XAML file basically what it does is it references a library, desklet clock assembly bin.clockdll, right? So it just references that thing. And again, this is just a plain XAML file. There's no magic to this. It was just the clock thing. And all the CS file does, and I'm going to open it here quickly, all that this file does is the same stuff that you would do. So the clock derives from canvas. We define some brushes. We get our handles to a couple of objects in the XAML file here, right? The seconds hand, the minute hand, the hour hand, and the close button. And if any of those are, we just fail. Otherwise we continue. And then we must have a timer somewhere that updates it. Where the hell is it? Oh, that is magic. How the hell is that updating? What? I'm sorry? Really? But how do you kick that? Oh, I think this is there a storyboard there? Marks. Second hand. Oh, okay. Second anim, second hand angle. Oh, okay, there it is. So I guess whenever you update the minute hand or the hour hand or the second anim, it will call the other guy, I guess. Let me see. So where does that happen? Oh, there it is. Second hand angle equal now multiply by second. Okay. But this must be updated somewhere. A what? Oh, so it keeps going afterwards? Oh, look at that. Well, I clearly didn't write this stuff. I'm gonna show you the one I wrote, but it's kind of broken. So this is the first one that I wrote, and the idea is that when you click on this thing, it did a nice fade out, but for some reason, it's not fading out anymore. Now, I wrote this a year ago, so just ignore it. And now I need to go and kill it. So because that's it. As you can see, I didn't add a close button, so there's no way you can kill that thing now. I mean, there's no way you can kill it. So I'm gonna have to. Since I'm an elite hacker, I'm going to kill that thing, which is this process. Yeah, Linux is very usable. Okay. Now, what is interesting is that what we did there is that we have this command called mopen, which stands for Moonlight Open, and it will launch your XAML applications from the desktop. So, again, I'm going to go to the shell because I'm on desktop, desklets, boot mono, and then where am I going to go? Glassy calendar. Okay. So if I type mopen and then the default.xaml file, this is going to launch it into its own window, right? Now, this looks like ass. So the reason is that this wasn't designed to run in a window. This was a desklet. So what we do is we tell mopen, which is an awesome command, -d, which means run in desklet mode, which means run transparently. And now you have this beautiful, nice calendar on top of your application. Anyways, again, it's just a XAML file that is running on your desktop. Okay. Man, I'm thirsty, and this water is from someone else. I'm probably going to get herpes. Anyways, let's move on. I'm thirsty, and it's okay. So this is what Moonlight originally looked like. So we had the Moonlight core, which contains all of that junk that makes up Silverlight today: text rendering, canvas, event handling, XAML parsing, media animations, and dependency objects. And we actually don't do the actual rendering. We send high-level commands to a library on Linux called Cairo. And Cairo is very interesting because you send these high-level commands, kind of PDF-like commands, the same ones that XAML takes. So you send stuff like lines and strokes and ellipses and paths and clipping, and it will do the work for you. Now, what is very interesting is that Cairo will actually choose how to implement that. So it can either do software rendering, right? So it can just do everything through software. Or it can use OpenGL, right? So it will do alpha compositing. So whenever you're doing alpha compositing, it will do it on hardware, and it will do clipping on hardware. It can generate SVG or PDF files, so you can use this to dump SVG or PDF. And it can also do quartz. So actually porting Moonlight to the Mac took one afternoon in Madrid. So we ported it to the Mac, and it runs on the Mac as well. Because all of the underlying graphic stuff is done by a separate library. We didn't even build that. It's the same library that Mozilla 3 is using now. Now, there's a funny story. Right now I'm running my old laptop because the new laptop that I got, which is a Suite machine, comes with an NVIDIA card. But the NVIDIA card has a driver issue that makes compositing 1,000 times slower for certain code paths, and we're hitting it. Oh, thank you so much. No more hairpiece. Thanks, thanks. I'm very scared of that. Because you can't get rid of that once you get it. The what? Oh, I use a lot of alcohol. No. So anyways, we're hitting we're hitting a driver bug on the hardware that I have. So this Suite machine that I had, I couldn't bring it because the Halo video that you just saw was doing 1 frame per second. It was horrible. It almost looked like a slideshow. So anyways, we're going to have to switch that to have a blacklist and just default to software rendering in those code paths and go the slow way. But anyways, and then all of the media stuff, which is the complicated stuff, is handled by an open source library called FFmpeg. And that thing does a lot of things. It did the pipeline, and it's a very primitive pipeline, so it could only play local files. So whenever you went to the Halo site, we actually downloaded the entire file first, right? So all whatever megabytes. And only when it was completely downloaded, we would actually play it back, right? So that's how we demonstrated in Paris. It was a big, huge hack. And also all the codecs, all the stuff that is patented, VC1, NWA, WMA, MP3, it all comes from FFmpeg. Now, so obviously we can't ship that stuff. That would be illegal for us to do. So what the hell is going on here? I'm missing a slide. See, I worked so hard on my slides, and I'm missing one step here. Well, all right. We're just going to have to go with this step. So the current implementation, we actually had to rip out the entire FFmpeg, and we had to build an entire media pipeline. So we have to implement streaming. So now we do streaming. What you saw right now on Halo didn't download the entire file. It can start playback as soon as we get it. We're implementing MMS over HTTP, which right now doesn't work. So if you go to Channel 9 right now, Moonlight will not work. We're working very hard on that. We should have it done in the next few days. And we're doing the demuxing ourselves. And all that is left is the actual codec implementation. And that's where the Microsoft component comes in, that green box over there, right? So right now, we don't have an integrated build of Moonlight with the green pack. So the only way you can get a full Moonlight experience is if you build it yourself. We're not legally allowed to redistribute the code fully compiled to people because we would be in violation of the LGPL. It's a complicated issue. So just trust me. If you want to get a full Moonlight experience today, you have to compile it yourself. We are not allowed to give it to you. In the next couple of weeks, we will have the media pack from Microsoft, and you'll just download Moonlight, and you will get the media pack from Microsoft, and everything will be dandy. So anyways, we're working on that stuff now. Oh. You can ask a question in the meantime as I... So anyways, this is what we're planning on doing right now. What we're planning on doing next is, the first thing is to ship 1.0 because there's a lot of websites right now using 1.0, and we're getting actually a lot of people, a lot of requests right now is like, it's urgent for us to ship this stuff and we need it on Linux. When are you going to have it ready? So we're going to have it ready by June, but we're going to deliver everything that these guys need in the next 3 weeks. So we'll keep a couple of people happy, but we don't want to call that a 1.0 until it's solid, robust, works with every website, and so on. So a couple of areas that we're working on is integration of the media pack, completer media pipeline, which is the thing that prevents Channel 9 from running right now because they do MMS over HTTP, and we don't have that piece finished. We're working on that. And the other thing that is a little bit embarrassing is the performance. I'm going to show you an embarrassing setup because the performance is atrocious there. but you can get an idea of what the problem is. And the problem is that we're repainting too much, so we need to come up with an algorithm to reduce the repainting. And we've been coming up with some things, but we haven't finished everything. And in particular, this website loads like 5 videos at the same time, so it's a brutal test. You saw that the window turned gray, and that's because if the window stops responding for too long, the window manager automatically grays out applications. So we can leave it running there for a while. Well, that's not the performance issue I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you a different performance issue, but I guess a performance issue is a performance issue. So anyways, ignore that. Let me just do a little bit of a PS that they grab Firefox, kill, process. There we go. Pop. All right. I'll show you some other site that sucks later. We're doing some parallel work on 2.0. Although we're not focused on 2.0, my team that is 2.0 has a lot of requirements that we need to implement regardless. So we need to implement. See, remember, Mono was designed to run on the desktop, which meant that it really didn't have a lot of tolerance for if you fed it incomplete assemblies or garbage assemblies. Our philosophy is if garbage in, garbage out. If you give us broken assemblies, you're going to get a seg fault. Tough luck. So just don't fit. I mean, the situation was one of, Doctor, it hurts when I do this, and the answer is, well, don't do that, right? But with the web, it's a lot different, because in the web, we're going to go to random websites, and people can send you, malicious assemblies. They can be sending you broken assemblies on purpose to crash your browser. So a lot of the work that we're doing right now is in strengthening the VM. So my VM team has been working for the past 5 months in completing the Mono verifier and in strengthening the VM. And it's also useful for Second Life, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to skip over this because I think we're running short on time. So one of the things that was interesting is that the Silverlight libraries, which I called 2.1 here, but I think that they changed the version today or yesterday. It's basically it's not a superset and it's not a subset of the 3.5 libraries. It's kind of it has a few more things than 3.5, and they chopped up a lot of stuff out of it. So what we did, and I think it's a brilliant thing, is we basically took our libraries, our 2.0 libraries, and then we extended them with everything that we needed for Silverlight, right? And then we run them through a tool called the linker, the mono linker, the tuner. And the tuner basically reshapes this assembly to look like what it's supposed to look in Silverlight. So the idea here is that we wanted to avoid an if-def hell, right, where we had to support the 1.0, 2.0, 3.5 Silverlight. And we didn't want to put any if-defs. So instead we wrote a linker that looks at the assembly, messages the assembly, and generates a new assembly that exposes a 2.1 API. And that is the artist rendition, that's me, for the process, as you can see. And it's genius. So what else? Let me see. Moonlight 1.0. I want to move fast because there's a lot of stuff that I need to show you. Development frozen. Well, you can read that stuff. There's not a lot of interesting stuff. We already have Link. We're mostly done with Link. There's a couple of things here and there that are missing, but for the core stuff that we need to support, we're in very good shape. So one of the other things that we want to do is, with Moonlight 1.0, with Silverlight 1.0, you don't really need an SDK, right? If you're a Linux developer and you want to generate Silverlight content, all you have to do is you basically go to your, you go to your Emacs editor, right? And all you have to do is you put something like, PHP, and then you say something like print object embed equals or something like application x Silverlight, right? Well, I guess I need to do that. Right, so you do something along those lines. In fact, I don't even need to do that. Yeah, actually, it just, and then you put here print, canvas, et cetera, right? So you didn't really need an SDK to build applications on Linux with 1.0. If you had a text editor and you had a, MS Paint or, anything to build bitmaps, you were all set. With 2.0, though, you do need a compiler. You do need a C# compiler, or you need something to package up your Iron Ruby or Iron Python files. So we have built an SDK, and the SDK basically contains everything that you need to compile code with C# or VB, to build libraries, reuse libraries, and so on. We support it on Linux, macOS, and Solaris. So if you want to develop applications in Linux or one of those, we'll provide you that. We have an early prototype right now as Silverlight Designer. I can show it to you, but you would laugh at me, so I'm not going to do that because I know that there will be a very bad article tomorrow written about that. And we're also bringing our IDE, mono-developed, to the macOS 10 because we think that there's a lot of macOS 10 people that would really like to develop Silverlight applications. Microsoft doesn't have the tools, so we'll give them the tools. Let me show you mono-develop. So, mono-develop is the IDE that we use to build applications on Linux. It's, you can think of a poor man's Visual Studio. Yeah, there it goes. You can ignore that warning. And I'm going to load the chess application. I'm just going to show you a couple of things. So this is our, this is our IDE. Oh, what is this? Oh, it has to build the database, the method database. Okay, there we go. It's a standard IDE for building .NET applications. So if I run this application, it has build support. It has build support for building your games. I just built the chess application locally in Linux, and I can make Linux. This is the demo that Scott Guthrie showed at the keynote last year. And basically, this demo is you got two implementations of a chess engine. You got an implementation written in .NET, in C#, and you got an implementation written in JavaScript. And the idea is that you can have either a human play against a human, or .NET play against .NET, or .NET playing against JavaScript. So if I click JavaScript here, you can see oh, Jesus. Something is burning my CPU. That number should be 1 million. So let me find the responsible process for that. Anyways. Well, but here you already notice a bug. The first one is that it says .NET wins, right? So we must fix that. So we search for .NET. There he goes. So we change this bad boy to, mono. And then we run it again. That's the beauty of open source. You can take credit for someone else's. No, I'm kidding. And now, what is that? That is awesomeness. So there we go. So you got JavaScript playing against mono. Now, I don't know why the performance is so atrocious. It's supposed to be like 1 million. But anyways, so we're providing tools for developers to actually build applications and build our solutions on Linux. This was imported from the chess solution that comes with the project. That's not part of the Novell agreement with Microsoft, but we're still doing it. So, just because we can. And, just for completeness, I'll show you just remember, this was built by one of our interns last summer. So this is our example designer. Look at that. What can I square? Oh, look at that. And then you can rotate this thing, and it's going to crash very soon. So, but you can look at the XAML generated. Oh my God, isn't that awesome? So, anyways, yeah. Now, there is one interesting thing about this beast. The interesting thing about this thing is that we actually build the editor so it can be hosted inside Silverlight. So although we're hosting it right now with the GTK stuff, the idea is that it will be hosted in a web page. So the idea, if someone wants to build a web designer inside a web browser, they can do that. Of course, this is only 2 months of work for an intern that had to fight 90% of the time with limitations in Moonlight itself. So it's not very advanced. I'm sorry about that, but anyways, you saw it. What else? So we want to bring this to the Mac people. Also, for people that are interested in testing their software running on Moonlight and working with Firefox, we have a VMware image, and we're going to update it with Moonlight as soon as we have the media codecs. And it will contain everything that you need to build applications using mono-develop, Moonlight on Linux and on the Mac. So you can test it on Linux, and we'll also have this stuff for the Mac. And it comes with tons of demo with ASP.NET and Silverlight and WinForms. I'm just going to skip over that. We want to support more browsers than what we support today, but right now our priorities are the ones that I listed. And I'm just going to go very quickly here. In fact, why don't we do questions and answers, and I'll skip over mono. I already talked about this at the beginning. Mono is I'm just going to skip over all that stuff. So if you have any questions, now is the time. We have 24 minutes to do that, so please ask some questions. Can you go to the microphone, please?
Hi, this looks very impressive. I actually have a question related to Mono itself. And does Mono have a plan to, like for example, support MS Build so that projects that are built in the Visual Studio can be easily migrated to Mono?
We do have an MS Build implementation. It's not complete, but the Mono develop team has decided that they're going to switch their file format from MDS to XBuild for the next release. So they just released the 1.0. It was frozen, and the next release should come out in 6 months? When is that? So our next release will default to XBuild, so everything that you build will use XBuild. Now, right now, it can import XBuild files, so you import your solution and you develop on Linux, and you'll be fine. But we're going to switch from that and make it completely native for the next release. So you can still use it. I mean, you can still import solutions, right?
Well, to a degree. I think right now I wasn't actually able to get XBuild to work, for example.
Yeah. That's XBuild. You need to use MonoDevelop.
Okay.
So for that, you need to use MonoDevelop to import your solution. XBuild is not completed. And what they're doing is they're switching to XBuild and finishing XBuild. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah?
Thanks.
Well, the other thing that I wanted to show you is you know how we had that right-click button where you can debug and all that stuff? So people were saying, well, with Silverlight, you don't get to view the source, right? So we figured we can hook up on the menu, we can just hook up Reflector, and then you'll be able to, view the source code. So that's Reflector on Linux running with Mono. And, you'll be able to look at the assemblies that you download from the web. And I'm sure we're going to make a lot of people happy and a lot of people unhappy. Yes?
So my question is Mono running on any mobile devices today, cell phones, et cetera?
Yeah, hold on.
And the follow-up question is, could we see this as a way to test Silverlight 2 on mobile devices before Microsoft finishes that project?
Well, you can probably test it today on the Nokia 770 because it's a full Linux system and it comes with Mozilla, so you should be able to run it. I haven't tested it myself. I have one at home, but I only use it to look up IMDb when I'm watching TV. But I can show you a Mono device. This little guy, it's a Sensa SanDisk Connect, and this guy runs. I hope it has battery. It runs Mono. It has a Yahoo service. So soon a Microsoft company. Oh, the irony. And it has a beautiful UI. I don't know if you can see that, but it's very smooth, and it does transparency, and it does Wi-Fi. It does internet radio. And in fact, it even has a speakerphone, so if it can hook up to the net, I'll be able to show you that. You see, connected to MSF iNet. And it's connecting. I didn't pay my subscription to Yahoo. I said no, I'm a Rhapsody user, so I don't know if it's going to play, but it can stream music. And this is running Mono. It boots the Linux kernel, and then it's a single Mono process for the entire thing. Also, if you use the Sirius Stiletto, the Stiletto 1 or the Stiletto 2 for listening to XM radio, or Sirius, or whatever it is, those two devices run Mono too. So so yes, it runs on embedded devices. Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Baby, you can keep it secret.
So that's being streamed. That is right now being streamed from the wireless here. So yeah.
And what about Silverlight 2? Is it going to be way too slow?
For this?
For that?
I don't know, man. I mean, I like my desktop, but I don't know. We'll have to find out.
Cool.
See, the other thing is that this thing doesn't have a lot of pixels, right? That thing has a couple of megabytes of memory for the screen. This probably has like 10 bytes, right? So I mean, you really can't go wrong with the performance in this thing. So.
This is cool stuff. What's your story on internationalization, supporting international languages?
In
Moonlight?
Where?
In Moonlight and Linux.
So we're going to have the same support that Microsoft does. In fact, our support was better than Microsoft's.
But Microsoft has in Windows Uniscribe, so what do you do on Linux?
So in Linux, we use this thing called Pango.
Yes.
Pang means, it's a combination of Pan means all, and in Greek, and Go means languages in Japanese or something. And so Linux has an incredibly powerful infrastructure for internationalization. And that's the same library that we're using. We're not using all of it, but let me show you something. For example, lang equals Arabic Lebanon gedit. So I can actually run any what was that? That's wrong. What happened here? Okay, hold on. So how do you say this? Spanish from Mexico? Oh, so I'm getting it wrong. So it's maybe ESMX or ESMX?
It's hyphen.
No, I don't think it's a hyphen. It's something like that. I'm basically trying to emulate the changing the system. How do you do that? Grab AR. Oh, Arabic Iraq. Okay, let's try that. Language Arabic Iraq. Gedit. What the hell is going on? Well, my demo bombed here. Gcalculate. Oh, let me see this. Gcalc tool. Okay, that works. Spanish from Mexico. Huh. Well, something is broken in my system. I don't know what it is. But, you know, we have the most awesome support in the world for, hold on, just ignore that. We have the most awesome support for international languages, and I wanted to show you Arabic because Arabic is one of the most complicated ones because it does right to left, but it also does, depending on the letters, it will use different scripts, right? So if you mix A and B, it needs to use a different rendering of those things. Or the letter needs to be different, the glyph that you use is different at the beginning, in the middle, or the end. And we support all of that. And I wish I could have shown you that. I don't know what's going wrong with this thing.
But is it going to be switched on by default, the Pango support, or you should be doing something?
Yes, for 2.0 we will, for 1.0 we won't, because 1.0 doesn't support it. Okay. But yes. No, we're big fans. You sound like you come from India.
Yes.
And I'm a big fan of what people did with Pango in India. We support right now GNOME. The desktop supports 13 languages. I know they're not all of them, but it supports 13 languages with the proper rendering and the proper, the Bengali and all of that stuff. Tamil, et cetera, et cetera. So we're very proud of that support. And we were kind of giggling when Microsoft said that they didn't support it. We're like,
Okay.
And we're telling them at some meeting, like, oh, you don't support it? Oh, come on, it's 10 lines of code. So anyways, yes, we will support it. I don't know why my demo is bombing. Locale, maybe? Anyways, I don't know what's, anyways. I'll try not to do that. Is there anything else I need to, yeah, I'm not going to do that, not going to do that, not going to do that. So, anyways, more questions? What? No, but that's not a question. That's a hint. Guys, I'm giving you the opportunity. You want me to say something inflammatory? Like I know some Microsoft people were asking me today at lunch, what is the value proposition? Or, no, what was it? What? That was a what? What? That was a question? Or that was a statement? No, anyways, you know, you're here, you should ask me, where are you destroying capitalism or something? Nice. What is the monetization strategy? Oh, let's go. We have no monetization strategy. I'm a hippie, you know, I love everybody, so I love you guys. Well, not in that way, but, you know. But there must be something interesting that you should ask. You have 15 minutes. GPL. Oh, GPL, what about it?
No, that's your question.
Oh, yeah, what about the GPL?
How's the Novell Microsoft Mono thing going to affect the compatibility with GPL?
Oh, we're compatible with the GPL. We use the LGPL. This thing is LGPL licensed. Now, to be honest, I think that the GPL had a lot of value 10 years ago or 15 years ago because the license forced people that did not want to contribute, right? But today, I think that people understand that the reason for contributing to an open source project is not because you're being forced, but because there's value in making changes and sending them upstream, which means you don't get to maintain the code. The code gets to get bug fixed. It gets integrated. It evolves independently. People are able to evolve it without you having to do it. So I think that a lot of people today understand the value of community and the value of contributing the patches back. So I think that the GPL was a way of forcing people to do that, and I don't think that is necessarily required anymore. So we're actually going in the other direction. We're about to relicense some of our GPL code, the Mono C# compiler. We're going to relicense under the MIX08 terms, which is the most lax license. So you can basically take our C# compiler and do whatever you want with it. It's a C#3 compiler, so we're very proud of it. And so we're kind of going in the other direction. We're trying to be more lax, kind of the MSPL. You know, well, the situation with other Linux vendors is, did you ever see a movie called The Life of Brian? Well, if you haven't seen it, it's basically a situation where you have a lot of groups that it's basically the Jews are trying to liberate themselves from the Romans, right? And there's a lot of factions, and they're fighting against each other. So there's the group for there's the Committee for the Liberation of Judea, and then there's Judea Liberation Committee. And they hate each other, and they want to kill each other, and they can't stand each other, but they fight the Romans, and they end up never fighting the Romans, but fighting among themselves. So sometimes there's a little bit of that in the open source world. So I belong to the Liberation for the Committee of Judea. No, the other one. I'm sorry, the other one. And so there's a little bit of a friction there, but nothing really important. Yes.
What's your perspective on Microsoft's ongoing commitment to Mono specifically, and also Moonlight, in terms of as a supported platform that they actually would endorse and care about?
So Moonlight, I think that they're being really clear that they support. Mono, I think that we need to do a little bit more of education of the Microsoft upper echelons, or echelons? How do you say that? One of those. Because I don't think that they're completely comfortable with the idea of us running ASP.NET applications on Linux, right? Now, I think that my impression is that they need to support it because, in my opinion, where was that thing? I mean, that's the Ajax control tool. In my opinion, there are certain scenarios where Microsoft is losing market share for no good reasons. There's a lot of people that want to host their blog, for $5 a month. And you probably receive 100 visits per year. And that doesn't mean that you want to get, a fully licensed Windows and a fully licensed SQL Server and client access license and all that stuff. All you want is to go to a hosting provider and give me a blog for 5 pesos a month, and that's it. So I think that there's a long tail effect that Microsoft is missing out, and that effect would bring a lot of more customers to the Windows platform. So I think that there's an educational process there that would be convenient for them to support. But for example, we're running ASP.NET Ajax control here. I don't think that they understand the value of this. But if you can run this on cheap Linux machines and you can sell expensive SQL servers, I think that they would be very happy with that situation. And so we need to work out a solution where they feel that they're not being completely ripped off. So the question is, do you let Ruby on Rails become the standard de facto platform for the web, or you actually encourage students and people that just don't want to spend thousands of dollars to run their ASP.NET application, right? So we believe that this is a very compelling story for Microsoft, and some people at Microsoft agree, and some people disagree. So I think, Moonlight they endorse fully. This particular piece, I don't think they endorse fully. And in particular, I don't think that they care at all about stuff like our native applications that we build with never mind. Just ignore that. I need to do a little bit of think here. So I don't think that they care about our desktop applications that don't even use Windows Forms or use anything. This is our own API. Oh, and I guess I have no pictures. Well, actually, no. I don't want to import pictures. That would be very embarrassing. Moving on. Moving on. Yes?
Do you have any idea when you guys are going to ship the new garbage collector?
So it turns out we used to be very concerned about the garbage collector, but it turns out that it's not really that much of a big deal.
Really, even for a bunch of, if you do a ton of really small allocations, it's still...
No, so the thing that kills us, what makes Mono perform really badly is not the small allocations. Those ones we have no problem with. The major issue are the large allocations. Because large allocations fragment the heap. Because if you allocate a big chunk and then you release it, and then some clown comes and allocates half of it, and then you allocate a byte in the middle, right? And then you need a large chunk again, then you need to go and allocate another chunk because this one, we can't compact, right? So what actually bites us is the large allocations, not the small ones. And most people are okay with changing their code to not do 16 megabyte allocations and do something smarter. If I had to guess, I would say probably in a year we would have it. I mean, the problem with the new garbage collector is that it's very hard to get a precise compacting garbage collector done. And so we're working on it. We just don't know when it's going to be ready. Now, the other thing about garbage collectors is that in some scenarios, compacting is a lot better than conservative, and in some scenarios, conservative is a lot better than compacting. So you can always construct a benchmark that will make the other one look horrible or make yours look fantastic. So we would have to provide both because depending on the load that you have, you actually would like to use the other.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, I have nothing else to say. But this is our music player. This is the old one, but it's our Windows Media Player, and it does a lot of stuff that I don't even know what it is. Anyways. So I don't think Microsoft cares about the stuff that we do on the desktop. I think that it's ASP.NET, the thing that we need to help them understand the value of Mono running all of this stuff. So, oh, yes?
From a release perspective, can we expect Moonlight to be, let's say, compatible with Silverlight 2.0 around the same time when Microsoft is going to release 2.0?
2.0 at the same. We're going to try. My goal is to be as close as possible to the Microsoft 2.0 release, and I think that if we get the controls, the Silverlight controls that were open source yesterday, or well, there's a discussion about whether they were open source or not.
Well, it was announced.
Well, it was announced, but if you actually download the link, it comes with a thing that it's almost open source, but it has a restriction that says only for Windows. So that's not open source. So we believe it was a mistake, and a lot of people believe that that is not correct and that needs to be fixed. So if that gets fixed, we are going to be cutting it incredibly close to the same 2.0 time that Microsoft released. If that's not the case, then it's going to take us longer to re-implement that work. But we'll get it done.
Okay.
We're going to try to make it as close as possible to 2.0.
Thanks.
So you should tell Microsoft, go and change the license. Like, dude, you really got to... Anyways.
I'll talk to that. Hey,
right.
Also, from for that desktop control, are any of the inherited security controls, security checks that come with Silverlight, are they going to be bypassed, or what's going to be the story there? Can you really build a full desktop application with complete I/O, with complete...
Yes, yes, you can. So let me show you. In fact, see, I wish I had a better demo, but when we build this thing, let me see, mono, lib, mono, the GAC. All right, so let me go to System Windows, which is, oh, no. AGCLR. This is the main assembly that Silverlight uses. So as you can see, we actually have two versions of the, well, this is, I know this is Unixy and geeky, but let me see if I can make this bigger. View, zoom in. Damn it, that doesn't work. Change profile, presentation. All right, there we go. Except it doesn't repaint. Well, that's just classy. All right. Yeah, let's ignore that. Let's just open a new window. Olive, mono, lib, mono. So we actually built two. So GAC. So this is the global assembly cache. I'm going to go into the GAC, and what you have here is one of these. I forget which one is the version that is compiled against the 2.0, the 2.1 API, so the Silverlight API. All right. So one of these things is going to be limited in what it can do, and the other one, well, it happens that this one happens to be the same size. But, oh no, this one, oh, no, it's debugging symbols. And the other one is actually linked against the other version. So let me show you monodis assembly ref. Well, monodis, this guy. These are ILDASM. So, okay, so this one is linked against the 2.0 API, right? So with this one, you get access to the full MS core lib. And the other one, so it's not the one with the 7, the one with the B. This one is actually referenced the 2.0 API, right? So this one is limited in what you do. So basically, let me show you this. CDS Olive, data, make install. So we have to, in Linux you use this thing called PC files. So we have two libraries. Whenever you link against the Silver library, right, it will link with the 2.1 version of these guys, and you will be limiting what you can do to 2.1. And that's the only version that will run on the web. But if you use the Silver desktop PC, right, this actually has a different version. It links against a different set of libraries, a 3.0 JCLR, and this is for use on the desktop. And this one gives you access to the full API in .NET. So you basically are able to use Silverlight for your GUI, but get access to the entire .NET API. So it's kind of WPF for the poor man.
All right, thanks.
All right. Well, oh, yeah, one last question.
Can you export images from like a XAML file and convert it to an image with Moonlight?
You can. We don't have a way of doing it right now, but it's very easy to do.
Okay.
You just tell Cairo. I mean, Cairo has an API that will, any surface will dump it into a PDF or a PNG, or so we can do it. And in fact, we use it for the test suite. Actually needs to do it, so we're doing it, but it's embedded in the test suite right now. But we can build a command, and I think that we might have a XAML to. Oh no, there's an SVG to XAML. Yeah. So we have. Yeah. Well, anyways, yes, it could be done. It could be done. Well, thanks so much for coming. I appreciate it.